G'day, ZiggyD here, welcome back for some more Path of Exile Patch 1.3. In this video I want to go over my first impressions of the new Tormented Spirits in the Torment League and share some of the things I've learned about farming them so far and some of their mechanics. So, the Tormented Spirits are randomly spawning ghosts. They seem to spawn about every other zone in normal difficulty. I spoke to Carl recently because they didn't seem to be spawning in Cruel, and he did confirm that it seems like there's something wrong with the spawn rates in Cruel, so they're probably adjusting the spawn rates, but it seems like something that appears every other zone. Sometimes you'll get two in one zone. People have had two standing right next to each other sometimes. So it's something similar to in the realm of lockboxes in terms of how often they spawn. So what happens with these ghosts is, or these tormented spirits, or these loot goblins, is that when they spawn, once you get close enough to them, usually within about one screen's length, usually by the time you see them, they'll notice you, but you can sometimes see them in the corner of your screen before they notice you. Once they notice you, they'll start running, and after a timer, I believe it's about 30 seconds, they will disappear. So, what happens during that time while you're chasing them is if they go over magical mobs or white mobs, they will put a little possession enchantment on top of them. So what this does is it puts a little green flame above their heads, so that floats around above their heads, and if you mouse over them you'll see that they have the enchantment from that particular Tormented Spirit, and there's a long different list of Tormented Spirit enchantments. Some are not very dangerous, some you won't really even notice the effect so much, you'll just kill the mobs and you won't really notice. But some are extremely dangerous and much more noticeable, by like big fire explosions and summoning raging spirits and stuff like that. Some can be particularly dangerous on certain bosses, for example, like there's one that gives a devouring effect where it consumes nearby corpses to heal the monster, and something like that on the Granddaddy Crab in Act 1, which constantly spawns ads, makes the boss a bit tough. So there are some pretty tough combinations there. I've also noticed that the effect will be different sometimes compared to enchanting normal mobs compared to chanting like a unique mob. So that's the second part. If the Tormented Spirit encounters a rare mob, a unique mob, an exile, or a boss totem in a Haku Armor Master mission, it will enchant that. It will actually possess that. So what happens then is the ghost will actually dive down into that creature and fully possess it. So there's that partial possession on white monsters and blue monsters, which enchants them, causing them to be more dangerous and drop more loot. And then there is the full possession on either a rare, unique, exile, or boss. So if you can get it into any of those, that monster will become much more dangerous. It will get the mod of the ghost, and sometimes it seems the mod can be a little bit different in a unique compared to normal mobs. And then if you kill that boss, or exile, or whatever, or rare, it's going to drop a bunch of extra items. Now there seems to be a sort of a guaranteed rare system. Chris talked a little bit about this in the Q&A, and he said that there is guaranteed rares associated with the Tormented Spirits. Now, I've killed Tormented Spirits themselves, and they drop loot if you kill them, but it doesn't seem to be guaranteed rares. They often drop rares, they'll often drop a couple rares, but they don't seem to be guaranteed. So I think the guarantee is if you get them to possess a rare monster, it's a guaranteed rare drop. If you get them to possess a unique monster, maybe it's a couple guaranteed rare drops. I haven't seen anything like guaranteed uniques yet, but that might be possible. They do seem to have a very high chance to drop uniques though, and I have gotten way more uniques in this league than I have in any other league. I could just be getting lucky, of course, small sample size, but I do seem to be getting most of my uniques off of Tormented Spirit enchanted monsters. So, how do you kind of make the most of these guys? Because if you just find them and kill them, you're gonna get a little bit of loot. So they drop a little bit of loot themselves, but that's not what you want to do. These aren't loot goblins from Diablo. You don't just go and chase them down and kill them. You have to kind of actually do something a little bit fancy with them to get the most out of them. So here's the strategy that I've worked out as the best way to get the most possible loot out of them. What you want to do is guide them. So what happens if you position yourself on one side of them, they'll run in the opposite direction from you. So you kind of like sheepdog them through as many mobs as possible. If you can find a shrine, if you can pop a lockbox, anything like that to get as many mobs enchanted as possible, or possessed as possible, each one of those is going to drop like 3-4 items. So you want to do that as much as possible, route them through as many mobs as possible, and then have them end up in a rare. So if you know there's a rare or a map boss or a unique or something nearby, what you want to do is route them through as much as possible, and then try and get them just before the 30-second timer finishes to actually possess that rare or unique boss. So it's a really, really good design. Honestly, I have to really commend ZiggyD on the design of this, because it's so tense. It's so tense because you have this tension. You're like, do I kill the loot spirit and get some loot off it, or do I risk it disappearing potentially, but try and guide it through as many mobs as possible? So you have the guaranteed some loot, or the potential of a lot of loot with the risk of not getting any at all. So I really love that design, and it's quite exciting trying to guide them through and trying to get them into that rare. And when they're not cooperating and they get stuck on a wall somewhere, and the rest, it's like the unique mob's just over there. Go possess it. So it's a lot of fun. But the idea essentially is you want to get them to possess as many white and blue mobs as possible, and then have them end up in a rare, unique, or whatever to maximize their value. Of course, if there's no rares or uniques around, what you want to do instead is guide them through as many monsters as possible, damaging them as you can, and then try and kill them before the timer expires and before they disappear. Because if they do disappear, you don't get any additional loot off them. You'll still get loot off the things that they possessed though. So out of this, I can see people going to the extremes a bit on this. What might happen, a potential farming meta that could come out of this, and this would be pretty fun, is people playing very fast moving builds that can kind of essentially scout a map. The idea is that once you see the Tormented Spirit and don't activate it, hopefully, what you will do then is round up as many mobs as you can, hopefully round up like a map boss or a unique mob or a rare, and then pull as many mobs as possible to the actual ghost, because the ghost has a timer once you activate it. Essentially, once you get close enough to it, the timer starts ticking and it will disappear. Now, I think the idea is then that it's a lot easier to bring a bunch of mobs to the spirit than it is to bring the spirit to the bunch of mobs. So if you have a shrine or something like that, you'll try and push them towards that. But I definitely think moving fast through zones that have fast moving mobs that will chase you well is going to be a nice way to really get a ton of loot explosions out of these guys. And if you can pull a unique mob or something like with you, that's going to be ideal. So in terms of builds that are going to be best suited for Torment, because this is a question I get quite a lot, I think that you need builds that can move quickly, and you need builds that can attack a very fast moving target, because these spirits move pretty fast. Even as a fairly fast attacking, fast moving melee character, I have trouble actually hitting the Tormented Spirits. Now I think that's something that will probably be alleviated a little bit later in the game once I get like Flicker Strike set up, Whirling Blades, and once I become a little bit faster and a little bit higher damage, I should be able to burst them down, because melee works in PvP where targets are also moving fast. I'm sure I can kill a ghost. If you guys can kill moving targets in PvP, I'm sure I can kill a Tormented Spirit in PvE. But I think the best suited things are going to be ranged attackers that deal very high damage, obviously. It's not essential to kill the spirit, but sometimes you do. So this is not entirely necessary. I think a lot of people jump in and like, well, I have to kill the spirits, otherwise I'm losing. No, you can let a spirit get away as long as you get it to possess as many mobs as possible. You haven't really lost out. You've actually gained a lot more loot. If you get it to possess like 10 mobs, you've gotten a lot more loot than you would have just by killing the spirit. But that said, it's often nice to be able to kill the spirit after you get it to possess a bunch of mobs. So I actually think one of just in the top of my head, one of the best suited styles of build for this is going to be like Tornado Shot Puncture Rangers. Because you can puncture and bleed the ghost. It's going to take damage over time as it moves around. You can keep kiting it through as it bleeds out. Keep pushing it through different mobs, and then finish it off with another puncture or a couple tornado shots. So that should work pretty well. I think there might also be some potential for freeze builds that want to freeze it and keep it in one spot, but I think for the most part you want to keep it moving and keep it going through mobs. So fast moving, fast attacking builds, and especially ranged builds are going to have a good time in Torment. But do keep in mind that it doesn't really matter so much what build you're playing. You could be playing a Trapper, which is probably not the best for this sort of thing, but as long as you're able to get it through a bunch of mobs and hopefully possess a rare, then it's not going to escape and you can kill the rare in however much time you want. So guys, I'm having a lot of fun with Torment overall. I think the design is excellent. I think I put it right up there with Ambush Lockboxes. I think it's going to be an awesome addition to the game. I do think it's definitely going to get rolled over into the core game. It's probably just going to need a little bit of balancing in terms of their spawn rates and what sort of loot they drop and stuff like that. But so far, it's a lot of fun, guys, and I hope you're having a good time with it too. If you have any other questions or comments on your Tormented Spirit farming experiences, maybe you've worked out some pro strategies, then let us know in the comments below. That's it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.